Welcome back, friends. Thank you again for joining us. We are going to be continuing now on chapter 4, verse 28, which is episode 51 today. And where we left off last time, because it's a long verse, verse 28, we said that verse 28 says that this is one's reaction to the stimulus that one gets from the outside, has a reaction within one's mind and intellect, and then responds to the outside. And that there are four yagnas. And the first one was the yagna of wealth. And we were going to be talking about the yagna of wealth in terms of donations and charity, giving away, sacrificing wealth to others in order to remove from your mind the stubborn stain of greed. That greed is a stubborn stain within one's mind that causes you continued lifelong agitation, and that in order to get rid of it, the more you sacrifice of your wealth, the better it is that you will feel. And it is quite amazing. And I can give you personal examples of when you donate a large amount of anything, money, time, talent, to somebody else. Nature, God, karma, whatever it is, gives you back that plus more. It's incredible. I have found that if you give it in the right attitude, without expecting anything in return, it is so surprising. The examples I give to my family, friends, and others, I don't tell too many people because it sort of suggests that I'm saying, look, this is what I gave and what came back. It's absolutely incredible. And only you can experience it by doing that. But you've got to do it in the right attitude without any expectation of anything in return.
I want to go over the part that we talked about before the episode, because I think that could have been clearer in the last episode, and I think this is important. You talked about wealth as a yagna and to wash away the stain of greed. Your yagna should reflect your stain, right? You shouldn't pick another yagna if greed is the thing that you're trying to deal with.
Yes, and that part will become clear when we talk about the other three yagnas, the yagna of austerity, sacrifice of the body itself, the yagna of yoga, and the yagna of self-knowledge. Now, what Lou brings up is an important point. What you bring up, Lou, is an important point, because let's say you want to get rid of greed, right? And the fourth yagna is a yagna of self-knowledge. To some extent, you can't separate the two. Because as I said last time also, while you're using willpower to force yourself to give, because you say, it's not something that I do very easily.
Right.
I got all this food, I want to keep it for myself. For me to give this away or give away this money that I have, I can't do it. You've got to, at the same time, start to get self-knowledge, right? As we said before, just using willpower alone becomes very difficult unless you're getting self-knowledge at the same time. So all of them have some part to play.
Right.
But you're right that in order to get rid of greed, the first one, which is the yagna of wealth, dravya yagna, is an important one to focus on while you're doing the other three. Now, let's talk about charity. In chapter 17, there are at least 4 verses that are given that talk about the right way of doing charity. There's a sattvic way of doing it, rajasic way of doing it, and a tamasic way of doing it. So let's talk about in the reverse. The tamasic way, which is easier to understand, is if you want to give somebody something, you just throw it at them like a piece of bread. You're just throwing it like you're throwing it to a beggar.
Right.
It's insulting. And that is considered a tamasic way of giving charity to somebody else, with disrespect, dishonor to the person that you're giving it. Your arrogance is a tamasic way. A rajasic way of doing charity or dan is to say, I'm doing it because I'm getting something back. It's more of a business transaction.
Right.
You're saying, well, I can do this, but I'm also going to get a tax write-off on it. That's not an ideal sattvic way of doing it. All donation, all charity has some benefit, because a person's starving, he's sitting there waiting for something to eat, and you throw a piece of roti, chapati, bread at him, he's going to eat it. But So there is some benefit to it, but not as good as if you gave it to him with respect and, kindness.
Right.
So a business transaction where you say, I'm going to get a tax write-off, I'm going to get some benefit, maybe he'll remember me, I'll get my name on this placard. All of those are business transactions. And although good to do charity, not as good as a sattvic, which is where you use your intellect, your buddhi, to say, why should I be giving to this cause?
Right.
Why should I be giving to this organization or to this individual? Is he, she, this organization deserving of it? And if so, I'm going to give it to that person without my name attached to it, anonymously, without any expectation of anything in return. That's a sattvic donation. Now, he says, when you choose to do a sattvic donation, at the same time, you must also see what there's a place, kal is time, place and person, the right person and the right donation. So the lowest level of donation is money. Higher than that is physical service. Because if you say, my neighbor says, I'm really in trouble, I need your help.
Yep.
I have this funeral at my house, and there's going to be 100 people coming. I don't have the wherewithal to be able to do all this by catering. And you say, well, I'll pay $1,000 and I'll get a catering company. Yeah, you could do that. Or you can say, in addition to getting the catering company, I'll be there to manage everything. So that physical labor on your part, as you're doing that, goes a far greater distance than just handling it with giving money. Same thing with building a house. You can just say to somebody, here's a built house for you, or I'll take a hammer, nail, and I'll build it with you, and we'll build this together. The next level is mind and intellect, which is emotions, mind. Somebody's in a hospital, you sit down with them, you give them love, you give them caring. That goes a long way. It's far higher than just money or cash or doing a physical work. In addition, you're teaching somebody, let's say, with your intellect, to earn a living in this world. That's the intellectual level. It's like people saying, you teach a man how to fish.
Right.
You give a man a fish, or you teach a man how to fish. You teach him how he can earn a living for himself instead of just giving him money every time you see him.
Right.
You're going to be doing him a far greater service. Stands to logic. That's a higher level. Highest level, they say, is when you donate to somebody the knowledge that we are all learning now. The knowledge of getting to a higher spiritual level and peace of mind within oneself. Because everything else comes with that. The lack of your vasanas, burning up your vasanas, getting to be physically healthier, getting to be spiritually better, and to become materially more prosperous, all comes with that, believe it or not. So lastly, you say the right person and the right gift. You have to decide that with your intellect to say who's the right agency, the right organization, right person for me to donate this to, and then what do I give? So person who's starving, you can give him money. Mm-hmm. That doesn't help him. If he can't get any food from it, you're actually better off giving him food. Somebody who's freezing to death, giving him food doesn't work. Somebody who's starving, giving him a blanket doesn't work.
Right.
You've got to be able to choose the right gift for this person that in his state of need. Any other thoughts, Lou? Did I miss anything?
No, I don't think so. It's I love the different levels of this and finding different ways to do it. And you're right, matching up the donation with the person is important, or the contribution with the person is important.
Yeah. And when we get to verse 17, we're at verse 4 now, so if we ever get there, verse 17, all of this is described in much greater detail. So either you can go on your own to your books and see what verse 17 talks about, or hopefully in another year or more, Lou, we'll get to verse 17.
So just cutting a check randomly is not necessarily the best way to go. Of course, it probably helps to some degree, but for your self-growth and for working on yourself, probably not the best way to go.
Not the best way to go. It's good for the recipient, but not the best for your spiritual growth. Mm-hmm. especially if you're doing it because you think that you're going to get something back in return.
Right.
So there are 3 more yagnas that we want to cover very quickly today. Tapo yagna is the yagna of austerity, the sacrifice of the body itself. Physical sacrifice, as we said, is superior to material sacrifice. Ahuti here, the offering, is your body itself. Service and sacrifice on the part of the giver. The recipient kindles it and thanks you for it. Now, in this tapo yagna, it says you have to conserve your energy and apply it for spiritual growth to yourself. So in the 17th chapter, it also talks about seva, which is service, and how to serve. It says 3 things. Manasik, which is for the mind. Mm-hmm. Second is sharirik, which is for the body. And the third is vachik, which is for the tongue. These 3 are very important services that you can do for austerity. So the yagna of austerity says you've got to be austere. Now, folks, if you don't know what austere means, look it up in the dictionary. But people who are austere, sometimes it's misunderstood, the whole concept of austerity. But in order to keep the mind happy, nobody else can make your mind happy other than you. You know, it's not like a TV remote or a radio remote where you press a remote and say, oh, you know, because people say, well, you know what, you made me unhappy yesterday. Yeah. You did this, you did that.
Right.
It's not possible. You make yourself unhappy. He doesn't have a remote to make your mind happy or happy. You know, I was so happy after you came, you made me so happy.
Right.
He or she didn't make you happy. You made yourself happy. So if you keep happy, if you keep smiling, you're actually conserving the energy of your mind, and as a result, conserving the energy of your body, because the mind is more subtle than the body. If the mind's happy, the body's happy, believe it or not. So the Gita says, keep the mind very pure, important, very serene, gentle, silent, and self-restrained. Now, very pure, why? Because impurity causes those gateways to hell: lust, desire,
right,
anger, greed. But purity takes all that impurities, those feelings, those emotions, those thoughts away. Serene, why serene? Because not being serene causes you to be selfish. Selfishness, again, causes agitation.
Yeah.
Gentle. Gentle meaning non-violent and non-vindicative. Is that the right way to say it?
Vindictive.
Vindictive, sorry.
Yep.
Vindictive. Non-vindictive, non-violent is considered gentle. And then silent. Why? Because the more you speak, I will get to that, you're using self-restraint. With that, your mind becomes so much happier. Just imagine somebody who's putting all these together, smiling constantly, silent, self-restrained, gentle, not having thoughts of violence or vindictiveness, and serene, not selfish.
Right.
His mind becomes happy. Sharirik, which is the body. With your body, keep the body, again, pure, clean, washed, exercised, pure, clean, upright. Always be honest with yourself, what you put into your system. Don't put junk food in there. Your body's clean, your body's pure, self-control. Brahmacharya. Now, brahmacharya is misunderstood to mean that a brahmachari doesn't have any sexual contact with somebody else, and he's purely like a virgin or completely restrained. Actually, it means self-control. Doesn't mean, because a lot of the swamis are actually married, but it said that brahmachari has to be physically restrained and controlled in his use of his bodily organs, including the body organs of reproduction.
It's not having any contact. It's just controlling your contact.
Right.
Yeah.
People misunderstand that because
It's not abstinence.
it's not abstinence,
Right.
correct. I mean, you can choose to be abstinent, that's fine too. There are many swamis who choose to be abstinent. But the Gita says you don't have to be. You can be married and use self-control in your ability to perform anything for your body, whether it be food, whether it be any intake, any outflow has to be controlled.
Right.
And the last thing is ahimsa, which means non-injuriousness. It doesn't mean non-violence. As we see in the Gita itself, Krishna doesn't say don't kill. Krishna says don't kill if you don't have to kill.
Right.
If you feel that there's no other alternative, as it shows in the Mahabharata, he tried everything with these really evil kings to get rid of them. And when nothing else worked, he says, then there's no other option but then to go to work. So conserve your physical energies, your spiritual energies, using your body, and you dam up all that energy instead of wasting it. And then you can use it for your spiritual growth. The last one he says is vachik tapas. Vachik means refer to the tongue. The tongue is said to be the seat of goddess Saraswati. Now, we know that there's no actual goddess in the sky who's called Saraswati, but the tongue is considered to be the one organ of your body from which emanates wisdom, knowledge, etc. The tongue is the one which is like an organ of action, just
Right.
like your voice box, or just like your arms, legs. Your tongue has to be controlled. Your voice box has to be controlled. Control your tongue, it says, just like austere. Use restraint. When you do speak, speak only the truth. If there is any doubt in your mind whether this is truthful or not, then don't speak at all.
Right.
Your talk should be priyam, which is sweet, should be satyam, which is truth, and should be hita, which is beneficial. So anything you say should be either the truth or nothing at all, should be loving or no, don't speak, should be beneficial to whoever is listening, or don't speak at all. And it is said that when a person applies this kind of discipline, austerity to his organ of speaking, when he does speak, whatever he says comes true. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but that's what the scriptures say. And the last one is yoga yagna. This yoga means a spiritual practice, greater service than the ones that we did before. Yoga is a service rendered to enhance others' spiritual evolution, not just yours, but
Right.
to others. Yoga yagna means giving emotional and intellectual service in order to help others grow spiritually. It consists of, again, 4. Remember I said, take paper and pencil like I did and write all these things down because it can get very confusing. This
Yes.
is just one verse. We've done episode 50, now we're doing 51, and this is still continued. So it consists of, number 1, Ashtanga Yoga, which is consisting of yama and niyama, which are values. Number 2, pranayam. Prana is the life energy within us. And that's the one that makes our heart beat, whether you're sleeping or unconscious or whatever, that prana goes on. And pranayam is one way of trying to enhance and control the prana within ourselves. The next is pratyahara. You remember we talked about it in episode 50, where we said pratyahara is where you withdraw your mind from various objects that are tempting you.
Right.
And the last is asanas. Asanas are the ones that a person does by wearing these gym clothes and yoga clothes and going to studios and doing physical asanas. That is to keep the body healthy. So Ashtanga Yoga, Yama and Niyama, the values, Pranayam, to help the prana, Pratyahar, withdraw your mind from various objects, and asanas to keep the body healthy. Now, in Ashtanga Yoga, the values we have to follow are Yama and Niyama. What are those? I'll say them quickly. Non-violence, or ahimsa, which really means non-injury, truthfulness, non-stealing, control of your own senses, both those of perception as well as of action, and non-possessiveness. doesn't mean that you can't possess. It says don't possess too many things and don't be possessive of the things that you possess.
Right.
Even if you move to the Himalayas, the people over there have at least a loincloth and at least a vessel made of brass in which they go to the river and pick up water to drink. They have some possessions. So yama, the values, are non-violence, ahimsa, truthfulness, not stealing, control of the senses, and non-possessiveness. Niyama, those niyams or rules, regulations, are cleanliness, contentment. Whatever you have, be content. Self-study, study of your own emotions, study of your own behavior, study of yourself,
Right.
study by yourself. And surrender to God, and tapas, which is austerity. All of these things that we talked about. That's the niyama. We are not going to talk about the pratyahara. We mentioned that already, which is withdrawing your mind from various objects. And we don't want to talk about asanas, which are the various yogic positions
Right.
that we go to. The last one, which is the fourth, which is swadhyaya jnana yagna, which is the yagna of self-knowledge. The ahuti, what you're offering to the yagna in this case, is your vasanas, ignorance. What do you kindle out of it? What do you get? You get the knowledge of the self. How do you do that? Asceticism, to be like an ascetic, doesn't mean you have to go to the Himalayas. Sacrifice, as we said, a lot of it is seva and sacrifice. Mm-hmm. Serve and sacrifice. Study, contemplate, not just reading, but after you read, think about what you read and then meditate. Even just chanting the scriptures or doing self-study helps to keep our minds pure. The sound of just saying a mantra over and over again, saying a particular thing, helps to keep our minds calm and pure. Why? Because in addition to chanting, say God's name, it is basically by thinking about it, doing a rosary, thinking about it, it's taking your mind away from something else, your selfishness. Just chanting a name of God or a mantra helps to do that, to keep you calm. And jnana yagna is the process of gaining jnana. Jnana is wisdom. Yagna is the knowledge of gaining the wisdom. So it says, study the scriptures, get to really know them, contemplate understanding, and know the meaning of all the scriptures. Listen, contemplate, understand, then meditate. So that's the end of verse 28, Lou. Something you've been waiting for a long time and something that I like a lot. This particular verse is very important.
Well, up to this point, you've talked to us about controlling your desires because that's the enemy of peace of mind. And what we've seen in the last 3 episodes are practical ways to try to do that.
Yes, and we will see more and more of that as the chapters go on. Don't forget, we're still in the infancy. We're still in chapter 4. Compared to the first episode we did, or the first chapter we did, we're way ahead.
Right.
Now wait till you get further and further along. Friends, I hope you continue with us on this journey. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain. So thank you very much. I hope you listen again. Thanks, Lou, for everything.
Thank you.